This is Ian Bailey with Ian on Personality. Once again, I'm back in the classroom making a video. This video is probably the highest demand of anything I have done before, aside from marriage and relationships. I'm going to go through famous people and their personality qualities. We're going to go through sports stars, the characters in the TV show Lost. I know that's old, it's passé, Ian. But there's such good examples in that TV show. I'm sure there are many more examples we'll add later from new shows. And also maybe some politicians. Set aside your politics, just think about the personality. All right, so the first personality is sustainer, also called chesed. Sustainer is somebody who does not have major skill set that comes naturally to them. It's their goal to feel significant and to mold themselves into somebody who has a certain skill set or a preference. So in the TV show Lost, this guy Hurley is a great example. I call him a double sustainer. His primary quality is sustainer, secondary quality is sustainer. He's not dynamic. He would just sustain the way things are going, even though he complains. And many people sustainer, which I call double sustainer in their qualities. Many of them do struggle with obesity, and he's overweight. They feel insignificant. They feel, like they're just nothing. And they eat to assuage the physical stress. He happens to be overweight. And then you have 6 other combinations, sustainer and any of the other 6 qualities, creative, investigative. Those famous people like that, first of all, set aside your politics, but George W. Bush, he is not, dynamic and suave like Clinton or Reagan, not at all. He got there because of many advantages he had growing up and probably, money and campaigning. But he went to bed every night at 9. He got kind of overwhelmed by things. Was not a dynamic speaker at all, but he was functional. Probably the highest achieving later chesed we've seen, probably maybe ever. They can achieve, but they tend to like smaller managerial responsibilities. Let's go to sports. LeBron James, Malone, and Stockton. So LeBron James, the reason why he's different than Jordan is he's a sustainer. He's somebody who he's a freak athlete, but he doesn't have that killer instinct to really bury people and get in their head and go after them. He's more of a sustainer, wants to avoid some of the conflict. He doesn't have that. He cannot shut off his emotions like the commanding type, Malchut. And like Jordan would just be cold-blooded. He doesn't have that, and that's okay. He just has to keep practicing and training himself. Malone and Stockton, for back in the day, they would just do the same plays over and over and over, just pounding it. They didn't win a title. They didn't have the killer instinct. They could have. They got to the finals. They got to the Western Conference Finals. My Sonics beat them. Those are some good examples. So check out Hurley from Lost, Bush's mannerisms. Okay, the guarding personality, or guardian, or gavura. People who are a little bit more intense. They view life as a rat race. A little more reactive than active. So here I got Richard Sherman. Why does everyone not like him? Because he's very defensive. He thinks people are coming after him. He tends to, his trash talk is very much getting into people's heads. He's more intense. Remember Dennis Rodman, guarding, creative. These guys are good at defense, not great at offense. Good at rebounding. Bruce Bowen. The TV show Lost. Check out Sawyer. At the very beginning of the series, he's hoarding food. He's about self-preservation. Guarding is about preserving myself, protecting myself. But the healthy guarding is someone who's more like a kung fu master, mastering the self-control of things. And when Sherman does that, he actually does very well. Okay, so that's the examples of a guarding personality. Creative. So many people are creative. I'm sure you've seen musicians and artists. Many actors can play many different roles, but if you see them in an interview, they're joking around, typical creative people. They get involved in creative endeavors. Charlie from Lost is like that. I think Marshawn Lynch is kind of a creative type. That's why he's, many of them are fickle and particular about what they want. He doesn't want people talking about him. He doesn't open up to media. Van Gogh, many famous creative people where creativity is very popular in our day. And those people take information and absorb and incubate, and then they create. They tend to be more jovial. They can be melancholy and up and down. But people are surprised when somebody famous is all of a sudden depressed. No, people are creative, have a natural ebb and flow up and down, and it's their job to get a handle on that. That's the creative Tiferet type. Okay, now there's a different type of creative. That's more creative feeling or creative guarding. But many people are creative, investigative, or they're creative in a more analytic, intellectual way. So that's like John Locke on Lost. He's more analytic, he's philosophical. Many philosophers are creative, investigative. Tiferet Netzach. John Locke is always some big believer. There must be something that's going to happen in this show. On NCIS, this girl Abby Sciuto, very much like that. She's zany, she's creative, but she's kind of dark, analytic also. Good example. Einstein, the way he came up with ideas about, correct me if I'm wrong, about, I think, photons, is he imagined himself writing on a photon. It's a lot different than finding, information through just studying it. It involves imagination, like a philosopher. It's not just analytic, it's imagining ideas and conclusions, imagining the universe. It takes a lot of that for that sort of analytic creativity. Researchers, philosophers. Investigative. So good examples of that. So these shows were the people that are very smart. Doogie Howser from when I was younger. Sheldon. Some people love Big Bang Theory. I can't stand it. Other people can't stand it. But very smart people with a good memory, analytic. That's what a investigator is. Netzach. Very good intuition, good analysis. Very strong NT on the Myers-Briggs. Those are famous examples. And Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning is a different kind of quarterback. He's a good athlete. But he gets up there, he's very paternal and like old man, father, very much an investigator. He's analytic about things. He's not, super suave like other famous athletes. Steve Irwin, very investigative, but also some creativity in there to make it more interesting. On Lost, Jack, the main doctor guy. Many doctors are Netzach. At the beginning, he has terrible bedside manner. Hurley criticizes him for that. But later on, as the show develops, he gets better in his interpersonal skills. Classic investigative. They're very good at the intellectual things, but have a hard time with the relational things, and they work on that. Helping people, Hode. So in Lost, there's a clinical psychologist who, sorry about that, I'm at school. In Lost, there's a clinical psychologist who comes in and falls in love with Hurley a little bit. She's very empathetic and warm and nice. I think Tim Tebow is a helping personality. He doesn't just help people practically with his faith, but he is very empathetic and warm, and it's possible that hurts his ability to play. Because you're playing ball, you got to be tough, turn off those feelings, and get in there. He's been criticized for his lack of toughness, but maybe he's able to do it. Mother Teresa, people that are super empathetic and warm, it's their job to figure out the balance between helping and helping themselves. All right, connective, Yesod. So Tony Robbins, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Dale Carnegie, people with big visions, dynamic principles, interpersonal. In the show Lost, this guy Richard, he's suave, he's handsome, he's on the good side, he's on the other side. He's just about pulling people together. Very similar story to Joseph. Joseph is a biblical archetype for the connective personality, connecting people together. He had a very similar backstory in the final season of Lost, I believe. Set aside your politics. Bill Clinton, suave, relationships, opening things up. Okay, last one. Commanding, or I call it monarchical, but that sounds a little nuts. Commanding. So many General Patton, Donald Trump, people that are very determined to keep pounding it out, to get what they want. When they're healthy, they become the centerpiece, the ego, the mental computer for an organization. But they could also be very arrogant. Many kings, Saddam Hussein, many people are very arrogant. On Lost, I think Kate is like this. Kate's very strong and fighting. Saddam Hussein, when the paratroopers were coming into Baghdad, he just went about his daily routine. Turn off the feelings, don't make a big deal. That is not normal. It is normal when you have to go to battle. And my man Russell Wilson, he's able to, he always says, I will never be phased in the game, never have, never will. That is shutting down the anxiety, ultra focus, ultra determined. And he's also smaller. King David, the archetype for that, was also shorter. The Napoleon complex, for better and for worse. Okay, but see, when you get into secondary qualities, just to finish up here, think about Michael Jordan versus Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson does a lot of charity. He has the helping part of him. Whereas Michael Jordan had more of the creative side to him. Not necessarily all the painting and everything, but he is into fashion and more the style of things. It's a physical type of creativity. I think about Doogie Howser or Sheldon versus Steve Irwin. Steve Irwin was investigative with creative. The creative made him more of an extroverted kind of type of extroverted investigative kind of person, more spontaneous, whereas other people are more rigid, introverted. That is a basic rundown of some famous people that you can ruminate on, and I'll be back with some more vids soon.